Hey, everybody, and welcome back to The Right Call. My name is Cole Altman, and I'm with my co-host here. It's usually the opposite, but I decided to change the roles here today. How you doing, Mark Altman?
Can you please acknowledge my sweatshirt today?
You mean your Minnesota North Stars?
Yep, throwback.
Throwback. I mean, the problem with the logo, the problem I have with it is that it's just a bit uneven.
What do you mean?
Like, the first tip of the N is more...
But you see the arrow, it's pointing to the star.
But no.
Listen, this sweatshirt is an ode to one of the top 3 greatest American hockey players, Mike Modano. Are you too young to remember Mike Modano?
I recall him looking through old sports cards of yours.
There you go.
But I do not remember him as a player.
Okay.
So today we're just going to be talking about a couple things. Today, some interesting games from Week 15, some really interesting games from Week 15, and just a preview on Week 16, just on the NFL games and a few fantasy tie-ins. So why don't you start us off with your opinions on the Cardinals versus Lions blowout, the opposite of what we thought was going to happen?
Well, Cole, I always say in the NFL, things are week to week. You can never, make too harsh judgments of what things happen. But I've said this on the show before. The Lions are the worst organization in professional sports. I will say that Dan Campbell has them playing with a lot of fire, a team that has very little talent. But I got to tell you, if you remember last year on The Right Call, I just absolutely lambasted, word of the day, Cliff Kingsbury, the Arizona Cardinals coach. That was the most humiliating loss I think I've seen in the NFL in the last 5 to 10 years. Because it's not just that they lost. They were humiliated.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't even know what to think about that game because I know DeAndre Hopkins is out for the year, and that was a tough loss. But it's almost as if they forgot how to play. And I have to say, Kyler Murray, to me, I know he's a great fantasy quarterback. I get that. But he has absolutely regressed as an NFL quarterback. I don't know whether he's too reliant on the run, and it's like the old Lamar Jackson thing. He hasn't become a good enough passer yet. I don't know what is going on, but that was humiliating, period.
I disagree with you. I think it's unfair to say that about Kyler Murray right now for 3 reasons. First, D-Hop has been hurt almost all year. He's been inconsistent. He's been hurt all year, number 1. Number 2, Edmonds has been hurt a majority of the year, which has hurt his passing game because a lot of his strengths and points come from those dump-offs to Chase Edmonds. And 3, I'm just going to ignore your smile. 3, Kyler Murray has been out.
You did actually ignore it because if you ignored it, you wouldn't have said it.
Kyler Murray has been out for the majority of the year. And it's
he hasn't.
He was out for 5 games.
Not 5. I think 3.
4. So I'll meet you in the middle.
Okay.
It's not easy to come back from an injury like that. Just put back into a tough offense. With plenty of injuries, yeah, I'm willing to cut Kyler Murray a lot of slack right now. And Kyler Murray, in my opinion, if not one of the top quarterbacks, if not the top quarterback in the league, he's right there behind Patty Mahomes and Herbert and guys like that, and Brady and people like that, in my opinion, the rest of the
Okay, just one other thought on this game. I am petitioning Roger Goodell to have a new column in the standings that says losses to the Detroit Lions by double digits. That should count as an extra loss or penalty.
It should cost us an extra 5 losses.
Right, that. Honestly, I have to tell you. So now what's interesting, Cole, and this segues beautifully into the next game, is the Colts-Patriots. So now the Cardinals play the Colts now. Okay, so now they come back, and they're playing the Colts. And this is a chance for the Cardinals. No one had been taking them seriously. They had the best record in the league. There weren't too many people really big Cardinal believers, though, and most people thought they were overachieving.
They're pretenders.
But I got to tell you, this is a gut check for this Arizona Cardinals team. If they go out and lose this game to the Colts, and they don't show any toughness and bounce back after that loss, that's going to say it all. Their season is over, and they may make the playoffs still, but I'm going to tell you right now, if the Colts beat the Arizona Cardinals this Sunday, Cardinals lose in the first round of the playoffs. No one will convince me otherwise.
I honestly think you're really underestimating the skills of Kyler Murray. He's so versatile. If you watch him play, he's so quick on his feet. He can make any play happen. He is so different to any quarterback in the league in that manner.
What have you been at the scouting combine?
No, but I watch highlights. I spend hours a week, like many hours a week, studying the game, and
I didn't know that. You should be doing more homework.
Well, I have good grades, so that's fine.
Okay.
I watch Kyler Murray. I watch Kyler Murray highlights. If you watch him, he comes out of the pocket and he circles around and does that little side pass, and you just see him. He's such a skilled player overall. He's such a talented athlete that it's hard to fade that, like, he's not going to make an impact on the field. So saying that the Cardinals, who have been great all year until
haven't beaten anybody good.
Kyler Murray's, a win's a win. And they're 10-4 for a reason. So don't fade Kyler Murray. Really don't fade Kyler Murray.
All right, I'm going to get you a Kyler Murray fan club jersey.
Hey,
can we go on to the Colts Patriots?
I'm not a huge fan of Kyler Murray.
We spent way too much time on Kyler Murray.
Fine. I'm going to start off the Colts and say that Jonathan Taylor is absurd.
Second fan club.
No, I actually do have a fan club for JT. He's amazing.
Hey, listen, it comes down to one very simple thing. You hear Bill Belichick talk about it all the time, execution. Patriots didn't execute. They had a ton of untimely penalties. They had the bad special teams play that led to the touchdown. And give Mac Jones credit. He rallied the team. He battled back after playing one of his worst games as a Patriot. And look, to me, it doesn't say as much about the Patriots. Listen, it's a road game against a good team. Unlike the Cardinals, the Colts are way better than a 7-6 football team. And anybody who knows football knew that. So look, I will say this. If the Patriots played the Colts again in the playoffs, which is a distinct possibility, as long as the game was in New England, I would feel very confident. If it was in Indy, I would still feel confident, but not nearly as confident. So I think it says a lot about the Colts. And frankly, teams like the Ravens and Titans that are fringe playoff teams right now, they're in trouble because I think the Colts are going to continue to move up in the next few weeks. And after this Arizona game, the Colts schedule is pretty easy the rest of the way. So the Colts just solidified to me what I already knew, which is they're a damn good football team, and it's because of Jonathan Taylor.
It really is, because you see Carson Wentz, and he's just,
he's okay.
He's okay. Like, he's in the middle of that group. I'm not just aside from fantasy, like he's just an average quarterback. Like, he's nothing special. And with a great team like the Colts have become, you have to see another big playmaker on that offense or defense. And we see Jonathan Taylor. We saw Michael Pittman evolving at the beginning of the year, getting those mid-range passes from Wentz. There was some bright side from Wentz the middle of the season, but that just did not continue. Faded a lot. And so Taylor is really, 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 I could say really 19 more times, but really stepped up for that team, and he is single-handedly winning games for the Colts.
Well, I think certainly he's carrying them on offense. I think the Colts have a really good defense, especially a really good run defense, and they seem year after year to have a good run defense. So, look, at the end of the day, to me, Cole, the AFC looks like this, and you tell me if you agree. The Chiefs are still at the top for me. They're the cream of the crop. After that, I think you've got the Patriots and the Colts. And if the Titans ever get Derrick Henry back, I'd put the Titans back in that mix. But honestly, beyond that, you just got to hope you don't have to travel to Kansas City. Frankly, if the Patriots can avoid traveling to Kansas City, I think they have as good a shot as anybody going to the Super Bowl because the AFC is so wide open.
Here's what I'll say about Kansas City. Anyone that goes into Arrowhead, I don't care if it's the Patriots or the Colts or the Ravens, they're losing. If you go into Arrowhead, you're losing.
I agree.
It's the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes in the playoffs never disappoints. That's all I'll say. If you're going into Arrowhead, you're losing the game.
All right, Cole. One final thought on last week's games. We have to talk about the Saints-Bucks for a minute, and I just want to get this. I just want to put this out there because I'm so tired of the Brady narrative and the Brady versus Belichick thing. So I just want to say this to our listeners, okay? Let me put this very simply. The last 2 years Tom Brady was in New England, he had garbage to throw to, and he wasn't a very good quarterback. So Tom Brady wants to go to Tampa Bay, has the good weather, doesn't want to have to deal with the cold. And by the way, he didn't ask to leave. The Patriots didn't want him to stay. They weren't willing to pay him, and so he had every right to leave. Let me put that out there. So he goes to Tampa Bay. He gets his buddy Gronk to join him. He's got the best weapons in football with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. They've totally rejuvenated Leonard Fournette to be back in his prime. And so this game against the Saints, right? A Saints team that has the Tampa Bay number swept them this season, always plays them tough, whipped their butt last season in one of the two games. And so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, so they lose Godwin, Evans, and Fournette. Well, what does that mean? That means Tom Brady's back to where he was in New England, where he doesn't have a lot of weapons to throw to. He has Gronk, but he doesn't have much else, and he looks like garbage. So I am just saying this. I have unbelievable respect for the GOAT. I am grateful for everything he's done. Even at his age, he's still put remarkable. We all agree. But I'm just saying that for you Tom Brady fans out there, once and for all, please acknowledge the benefit of having the best weapons in football. And a lot of his stats are inflated because of the talented weapons. And if Tom Brady went to teams that didn't have great weapons, he would be average, which he was the last couple of years in New England. So he's done amazing things, but come on, that leveled the playing field when he lost all those top weapons.
Well, let me ask you a question. Insert Brady in offenses like the Vikings and the Chargers and progressing offenses like that, but still not at the level of Tampa or Kansas City. Is Brady better than what he was in New England and worse than what he is in Tampa Bay, or is he just as good as he is in Tampa Bay?
No, I think your point's fabulous. Frankly, I think the Chargers example is great. I think he would thrive in that offense because he loves those Austin Eckler type backs and James White, what he had in New England. So I think he'd thrive there. In Minnesota, geez, I mean, with a top flight running back like Dalvin Cook and then Justin Jefferson, Thielen, he would love a guy like Adam Thielen.
Because Adam Thielen's extremely similar to Mike Evans in the fact that they're like a tight end.
Right. So I think your point's well taken. He doesn't need the top weapons. I'm just making the point that a lot of his success the last couple years is inflated because of the talent around him. Doesn't take away that he isn't a great quarterback, but that's a factor.
I agree. So just moving on to like Week 16 matchups, some interesting games, nothing that really stands out besides we just talked about Colts Cardinals. But one game I want to talk about on Thursday Night Football, a lot of key fantasy players going in that game. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Eli Mitchell is actually out, so you're going to see a lot.
Is it Elijah? Or are you on a first name basis?
I am on a first name. Yeah,
Eli?
I am. We had a talk, and he was like, "Yeah, I prefer Eli."
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
Does Eli also have a cup?
What?
Well, Elijah has a cup on Passover.
Oh.
Thank you. That may have been the better sound effect.
I think it was the better sound effect. So
okay, so keep going.
Titans 49ers. Let's begin with George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. What can you guys expect? What can our viewers expect out of Deebo Samuel and George Kittle on Thursday Night Football?
Well, first of all, let me say that I think Kyle Shanahan has done a phenomenal job with the 49ers. They've had a ton of injuries all year. They've had guys in and out of that lineup. And Kittle and Deebo Samuel are such dynamic offensive weapons that Jimmy Garoppolo, who I think is a marginal quarterback at best, has actually played relatively mistake-free football over the last few weeks as the 49ers have built this winning streak. So, I mean, I love Kittle and Deebo. I think Brandon Ayuk could be sneaky good over the final few weeks. But, to me, Cole, the story in that game is the importance of the game for the Titans. When the Titans lost to Pittsburgh this week, that was a really bad loss for them. It puts them in a difficult spot. They need to win a game. And I think Mike Vrabel's a great coach, and I understand the loss of Derrick Henry hurt. It's helping they're getting...
Hurt?
No. But they're getting A.J. Brown back. But I'm just saying right now, if the Titans lose this game, they're going to start worrying about making the playoffs. This is really a must-win game for the Titans from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a lot of the keys to winning for the Titans is going to come from the run game. I think that with A.J. Brown back, if I recall correctly, Julio Jones is back.
Is questionable.
Questionable, thank you. So speaking on if both of those guys play, a lot of the success is going to need to come from Deonta Foreman. I mean, we see Deonta Foreman scratching up to 15 to 20 carries per game the last 3 weeks. He's obviously the number one back over Hillard there. So I think that Foreman is going to need to put up a big game. I think that the 49ers are definitely going to be sitting on the past now that Tannehill's kind of getting in a groove. We're seeing...
There's no such thing. Tannehill doesn't know how to get in a groove. Tannehill's, this year, now that Derrick Henry isn't there to cover up all his mistakes and shortcomings...
No, but he's looked like a better real-life quarterback the last few weeks.
Tannehill's playing like Miami Dolphins, Ryan Tannehill, right now. Now, he hasn't had his weapons healthy for the better part of the last few weeks, but the point is he's playing like the Miami Dolphins, Ryan Tannehill.
I personally think you're selling Tannehill a little short, but expect Tannehill to get in a groove. Expect Foreman to have put up high-end RB2 numbers this week, and I think that if the Titans are going to win, they really need to get the run game going.
There's something about Deonta Foreman's first name, and I don't know what it is.
Wow, no acknowledgement of my point. Oh, there's something about Deonta Foreman's name.
Well, it's just that if it's I feel like it should be Deonte, and then the apostrophe. Like, is it Donta or Deonte?
It's Deonta.
Like, I don't know. Like,
okay,
it's Deonta?
It's
it's not Deonte.
I said Deonta Foreman.
Oh, no, I'm confirming that's the correct
Yes.
pronunciation. Okay.
Because if it was Deonte, it'd be spelled like Deontay Johnson. It's D-I-O.
That's A-E at the end. Like,
that's Deonte.
Who saw that coming?
If it was to be changed, it would be Donta.
Okay. Well, that's what I was thinking.
So, moving on to the Lions-Falcons. I'm kidding. No one wants to talk about that game.
Oh, that's huge. Well, I do want to say one thing about that game. I am so pleased I have Cordarrelle Patterson in fantasy.
He sucks. He's so bad.
And either DeAndre Swift or Craig Reynolds, because those two guys going against those two teams, dream matchup for fantasy playoffs, though, right?
Can we talk about how, I just want to circle back to that. You make a good point. Patterson is totally dropped off the map. Totally dropped off the map.
Well, he doesn't get any receptions anymore.
Which is a huge problem for Patterson.
I agree.
I always had a gut feeling that he couldn't keep this up for a whole year. He's never done it. Ridley, by the way, Arthur Smith of the Falcons organization said that they don't expect Ridley back this year, which is no shock to any of us. It's important that he's prioritizing his mental health, but it's still a bummer for a lot of fantasy owners.
Well, I have a bone to pick about that. In CBS, the fantasy league I do on CBS, Calvin Ridley is projected for 6 points this week.
Is he really now?
And I saw that today, and I said, oh my God, does that mean there's been an update or something like that? So I Googled frantically to see if, of course, there's been no update. So what is CBS doing? Do they have this like secret about his mental health that there's a chance he scores 6 points? Like, what is that?
It's probably just a glitch in the system, but again, the game I'm so excited for this week, so excited, is Vikings-Rams. Like, that's going to be a shootout.
I know. Wait.
You know why I'm excited. You know why I'm excited.
Let me educate our listeners. Cole is not interested in the Vikings or the Rams.
I'm interested in both. I mean, it's going to be a good game. But
there's two reasons why Cole's excited for that game. One of them's named Cooper Kupp, and the other one's name is Justin Jefferson. This is the only reason he's bringing this up on the podcast today.
That's a possibility. I'm not confirming anything. I'm not at means to say.
I will say, Cole, I am a little disappointed that in this past Monday Night Football Vikings-Bears game, that Kirk Cousins didn't improve his Monday Night Football record to 1-10 without losing to the hapless Bears. I was kind of hoping he could build on his incompetence.
He's really starting to look bad, Dad.
Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
He misses Thielen.
He misses Thielen a lot. It's hurting his fantasy value. You see him only putting up 15 and 10 the last 2 weeks. Does he rebound in this game?
Is it at LA? This game is at the Rams?
Nope, it's in Minnesota.
Okay, this is a good thing because Kirk Cousins does not have the capability to win a tough road game. So that's a good thing for the Vikings because if it was at the Rams, they wouldn't win.
You know what else is a good thing? When Justin Jefferson makes a catch, the Vikings horn, like that thing. That's going to be great. That's going to be great on a Sunday day.
All right, what else you got with football this week?
It's Bills Pats. So what can we expect from guys, not fantasy-wise? What is going to be the key? Are we going to see a breakout game from Ramondre Stevenson like we thought we saw earlier in the season? Kendrick Bourne, is he going to be a key role?
Well, he's in COVID. He may not even play.
Oh, boy. So what weapons? Jacoby Myers healthy, correct?
Yes.
Damian Harris back this week?
Not definitive.
So assuming Harris is out because he's always out. Stevenson and Bolden lead the backfield. J.J. Taylor, a little change of pace role.
J.J. Taylor's dead.
How is he dead?
He's not really dead, like literally dead. He's hurt. He's COVID. He's not even playing.
Okay, he's a schmuck. Forgot I said that.
He's
a schmuck.
Yeah.
So you're saying to me, right here,
yeah,
that Mac Jones, the rookie of the year, is going to be throwing to Jacoby Myers, Ramondre Stevenson, Brandon Bolden, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that with this game coming up against, I've said in this podcast about what a must-win game it is for the Titans and these fringe playoff teams that have to win, like the Arizona Cardinals, to get their mojo back. I want to tell you right now, I think there's more pressure, and I want to qualify my comment. I know the Bills need to win to get in the playoffs, so I understand when they have just as much pressure. But I think the Patriots, if they lose this game, and now they've lost back-to-back games in Buffalo and Indy, not only are they also not guaranteed a playoff spot, but there's going to be a ton of questions if they don't win this game. Buffalo's a good team. Buffalo's going to show up. The thing about Buffalo that I still don't think they can beat the Patriots is because they just don't have a running game. Devin Singletary doesn't scare me. Cole Beasley's already been announced as out. That's really going to hurt them. The Patriots seem to do a good job against Stephon Diggs. So I think Josh Allen will have a decent game, but I just think the Patriots are the better team and they're going to find a way to win.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. The Patriots are the better team, at least this year. I mean, it's hard to fade Josh Allen. Like I said about Kyler Murray earlier, it's hard to fade a talent like Josh Allen. I mean, he has a better arm than Patty Mahomes. Like, throwing-wise, if you watch him, he throws so powerfully, throws faster than Patrick Mahomes on a radar gun, more mobile than Pat Mahomes at times. So it's hard to fade him. Will we see it back? Will we see? I mean, he's been fine in fantasy this year, obviously, but will we see a rebound performance from Josh Allen even if they lose this week?
Yes.
You will?
Definitely. I think Josh Allen throws a couple of touchdowns.
What about Diggs? Do we see? Because
I just said I don't think Diggs is going to be a big role because I think Patriots do a good job against Diggs. They take him out. And frankly, that's the guy you want to stop with Buffalo. I mean, Dawson Knox has had a great year for tight ends. I mean, he'll be a factor. But frankly, if Kyle Duggar's on Knox, I think he can do a pretty good job too. I just don't think Buffalo has enough. And Gabriel Davis, who's emerged the last few weeks, I could see him having a decent game against the Patriots because that's the guy that's going to probably be unnoticed at times. But
so do you think fantasy owners can insert Davis into the lineups with confidence, or do you think he's a risky flex play?
I still think he's a risky flex play. It always depends on what your other options to compare to. But I think if you had to start Gabriel Davis, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Cole, I have one last thing I'd like to bring up for the podcast today. For the second time this season, the Baltimore Ravens have gone for 2 at the end of a game instead of going into overtime. And I just want to set the record straight. I've said this before in the podcast. John Harbaugh is an overrated coach. And before anybody bites my head off, I don't want to hear about the analytics. I don't want to hear about the statistics. I'm going to make 2 points. Number one, the Ravens had all the momentum in that game. The Ravens dominated the fourth quarter. Green Bay had a huge lead, and the Ravens Tyler Huntley out of nowhere is just exploding on them.
36 fantasy points.
Right, and so the Ravens go into overtime, and yes, I understand Aaron Rodgers is great and everything, but I just feel like the Ravens had all the momentum. Now, the game against Pittsburgh, when he did this earlier in the year and lost, I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. The Steelers have no quarterback. You're not confident with Lamar Jackson in your offense that you can outplay Pittsburgh in overtime? So I understand everything goes to analytics now in the NFL, but if the Baltimore Ravens do not make the playoffs, clearly we're going to point back to those 2 2-point conversions that he failed on or his team didn't execute on. So what do you think, Cole? I think it was not the right call.
It was not the right call whatsoever. I mean, John Harbaugh, I've been saying this for years, don't really see what the buzz is about. The Ravens have always been a good team. They've never been a great team. They've never really been a bad team, at least since I've been paying attention to football. I mean, me and you attended that game where Edelman threw that touchdown to Amendola. Patriots obviously won that game to go on to the AFC Championship, but that was a great game. Ravens never really could put it together. I mean, I know in 2010 or 2009 they won the Super Bowl, but since then they've really never gone past the AFC Championship. So do you see that anytime soon? Because Lamar Jackson really hasn't shown me anything to prove that he's a stud real-life quarterback.
I do. I think what really caught up to the Ravens this year is just the absolute lack of running game. And
it hurts when you lose Dobbins.
Yeah, it hurts. They lost Edwards. They lost Dobbins. And so next year, if the Ravens come into the season with healthy running backs, I think it'll make a big difference. The Ravens are a smash-mouth football team. They've got to be able to run the ball to set up their offense. And I know Marquise Brown's had a great year, and I know Mark Andrews has had a sick year. At the end of the day, though, that team needs to run the ball. That's how they're built. And when Lamar Jackson's tried to run the ball the last 4 or 5 weeks when he's been healthy, he hasn't had a lot of success because they're sitting on it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. There's just a few other points I want to bring up before we end. A few other players just relating to fantasy. In the Bengals-Ravens, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon. Those three guys are going to need to come in clutch for me in fantasy this week. But in all seriousness, for the owners listening, do you see a bounce-back week because all three had really rough weeks, and Mixon's had 3 rough weeks in a row. Chase is just inconsistent, but a rare rough week from Higgins. So do you see a bounce-back performance?
Well, I have 2 points to make. First of all, the loss of Joe Mixon is going to be huge for them.
He's coming back this week, probably.
No, I heard he's out.
No. Coach Zach Taylor said Mixon's feeling really good, and he's expected to play this week.
Well, that makes a big difference because without him, it's an unbalanced attack, and I think they're going to have problems. I think the real story is how Jamar Chase's parents decided to put the apostrophe after the J in the A. Like, who does that? Who has 2 letters in an apostrophe instead of 1 letter? Like, can you think of another athlete or even a person you know that has 2 letters and then an apostrophe?
Keyshawn Vaughn.
No, he doesn't have any apostrophe.
Yes, he does.
Where?
He is after the K-E.
Really?
Yes.
That is a great call by you.
Thank you.
What a breath of knowledge coming from you right there.
Well, thank you.
I feel so this is a proud moment for me. I mean,
Le'Veon Bell?
Wow. Now, just because he's my son, I mean, I love the kid. I'm just saying that for him to come up with those 2 instantly, I'm feeling a little verklempt right now. Wow. That's good stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But, getting back to the point before you made the apostrophe.
That's not the point?
No.
Okay.
Getting back to the point before you made the apostrophe comment, Chase bounce back week?
I guess. I mean, the Bengal receiver situation bores me a little bit. I mean, maybe it's because I don't have any, but I just feel like T. Higgins is always the most reliable of the 3. Chase is a boomer bust in the last several weeks, so I don't know. I don't know what to think about that.
I agree. Moving on to Chargers-Texans, Brandon Cooks, Davis Mills, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen. I mean, Keenan Allen, we already know what's going to happen. Herbert, Mills, Cooks, go.
Well, I'm going to tell you what the right call is in that game. And you heard it here first. And you fantasy people out there, I hope you're paying attention. Count on a touchdown from Brevin Jordan this Sunday.
Oh, my God. Are you starting Brevin Jordan?
I may.
My God.
So, by the way, I just want to share with our listeners, I don't have a great second tight end in fantasy. So earlier this afternoon, I held tryouts in Westboro for my second tight end role this week. And I invited Cole Kmet. I invited Brevin Jordan. I invited James O'Shaughnessy. And so there's a lot of people up for grabs. So I did some player evaluation this afternoon, and the jury's out, which I'm going to start with my second tight end this week.
Wow, that's an interesting topic that you may need to discuss others somewhere else where people may be interested. Last thing I want to cover, Buccaneers. I mean, we saw them lose Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette. They're 3 key offensive weapons. What can we expect? I know Fournette's out for the rest of the fantasy season. Godwin's obviously out with a torn ACL. Evans, questionable to play week to week with a hamstring injury. Assuming all 3 of them are out as they're expected to be, Antonio Brown, Keyshawn Vaughn, Ronald Jones, who steps up in that offense?
Well, Antonio Brown's the obvious one, as long as he doesn't assault anybody before the game this Sunday.
Which is a maybe.
I mean, the odds are that may happen. Honestly, I really believe this, Cole. I think where you're going to see the slack picked up is Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard. I think those 2 guys are going to get more targets. Even though Gronk's out there, I think they're going to go to more of a 2 tight end set, and I think you're going to see more tight end targets. I think that's where it's going to be made up aside from Antonio Brown.
I agree. So, Do you have any last
I
points?
do. And because you were
If it's about a damn apostrophe.
No, it is not. But I just am ending because you so impressed me with the apostrophe thing. I want to make a special call out. We haven't had a chance to talk about this on the right call. I want to honor Ennis Freedom, and I'm saying this because it's a name change. And Cole, here's my challenge for you, and I do not expect you to know this because it's before your time. Can you tell me another great name change in the NBA that has taken place besides Ennis Freedom?
Are you kidding me?
No.
Meta World Peace. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so Meta World Peace. Can you come up? That's very, very good. Can you come up with another one? Can you come up with what I remember?
I know what you're
the
talking
first,
about too.
Like attention-grabbing sports landscape name change. Can you remember? And this is better than Ennis Freedom.
What can you at least tell me the time?
It was in the 80s, early 80s. I know some of our listeners says, Worlds Be Free.
Oh, I knew it.
Lloyd Free changed his name to World Be Free. And I just have a funny anecdote to end the show with today. When I was going to college in California, and to get on Lakers fans' nerves, speaking of name change, is the running back for Miami Dolphins at the time was named Sharman Shah and changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Did he really?
Yes. And so I told Lakers fans to get under their skin. I said, I think in honor of that name change, I think the Lakers Kareem should change his name back to Lou Alcindor so there isn't confusion.
I agree.
It upset Lakers fans. I would just totally say it seriously. It was great.
Well, ending on that random note,
Same.
I mean, see why we have him on the podcast. Such a valuable piece of information.
A wealth
right
of insignificant knowledge.
I mean, insignificant knowledge can be significant.
Yep. Thank you.
Ending on that quote, thank you for joining us on The Right Call.